Breaking, FBI and DEA see Russia massive cartel trucking empire. 247 rigs seized, 189 drivers flipped.
This wasn't a raid. This was an extraction. 1:03 a.m., 3 states, 7 corridors, 22 target sites. And when the numbers finally hit the briefing room screens, they don't look like normal crime anymore. 247 tractor trailers, seized 189 commercial drivers detained and processed, $68 million in cash, gold and crypto keys recovered, 16.4 tons of methamphetamine, 2.1 million fentanyl pills vacuum sealed into freight pallets, 9 human trafficking safe houses cleared, 2 clandestine tunnel mouths discovered and finished, but already reinforced with steel ribs like the skeleton of something that was meant to live a long time. Texas border cities and the southwest freight arteries Arizona and New Mexico, the long asphalt veins that feed the country, had been turned into a private supply chain for a cartel that didn't even need a single name, because it used many shell names, front names, logistics partners, fuel cops, faith-based relief, a cartel that hid behind paperwork and DOT compliance stickers, and at the center of it, all posing as a respected interstate. Trucking CEO was a man who didn't carry a rifle, he carried a ledger. His name, in this fictional story, is Calder Rivas, a logistics tycoon, a donor, a conference speaker, a man who smiled for cameras and shook hands at ribbon cuttings while his company's trucks moved poison like clockwork. The officials call it the largest cartel-linked trucking infiltration ever uncovered in the Southwest. But you're about to see why that phrase is still too small, because the next part is worse. 4:32 a.m. Brownsville, Texas. A low fog sits on the roadway like breath held in a throat. The city is quiet in that way. Border cities get quiet before dawn street lights buzzing, neon from a 24-hour taqueria flickering, the occasional engine whining somewhere far off like it's trying not to be heard, and then the silence. Brax not with sirens, but with coordination. FBI vehicles roll in dark convoys. DEA agents stack behind unmarked doors. ICE tactical units arrive with lists already laminated. Local SWAT teams hold the perimeter, eyes scanning rooftops and alley mouths. DHS liaisons speak into radios using clipped words that mean everything and nothing if you don't know the code. This isn't one raid, it's a synchronized punch. Thrown across a map, a warehouse on the industrial edge gets hit first corrugated steel walls. A dock door painted with the name of a fake freight brokerage, Sundown Freight Solutions. In another part of the city, a driver wellness clinic gets surrounded, its windows blacked out. The sign knew the parking lot too empty for a business that claims it's always busy. 2 miles away, a strip mall tax office is quietly cut off from every exit as agents move in, wearing vests that don't negotiate. And out on the highway, where a rest stop should be nothing but diesel fumes and vending machines, a convoy is intercepted mid-idle 3 rigs with perfect paperwork, perfect seals, perfect lies. At 4:39 a.m., the first breach, a flashbang pops like a camera shutter from hell. Door hinges scream. Boots hit concrete. Black silhouettes flood the interior like a wave with intent. A man runs hands clutching a duffel bag that thumps with the weight of cash, not clothes. He doesn't make it 10 steps. He hits the floor hard, breath knocked out of him, the bag skidding open and spilling wrapped bricks with a smell you don't mistake. In the warehouse, they find pallets labeled ceramic tile, fragile. The crates are real tile on top. And beneath it, vacuum-sealed fentanyl pills stacked like ammunition, tight bricks of heroin wrapped in plastic with no fingerprints, cocaine stamped with a symbol that doesn't belong to any Brandonia system. They move faster now because speed is safety. In the back office, a safe is opened. Then another. Then another, cash stacked in bundles, banded with different bank straps, like trophies collected from different cities. Gold coins, gold bars, a shoebox full of cold storage devices, crypto wallets. And then, in a locked steel cabinet bolted to the floor, they find something that changes the energy in the room. Not drugs, not money, hard drives, encrypted, military grade. A sealed envelope with a single line printed in clean. Corporate type. Root authorization executive override. The agents stare at it like it's alive. Because if a trucking front is storing executive override paperwork, that means someone above the drivers is pulling strings. And that means this isn't just trafficking, it's governance. 4:56 a.m. Laredo, Texas. Another strike team hits a dispatch center that's supposed to manage freight scheduling. They don't find dispatch screens. They find a wall of monitors showing border cameras, highway way station feeds, and live GPS trackers. Dozens of them, each one a truck, each one a moving piece. A cartel map pretending to be a business. One suspect grabs a phone and tries To smash it, an agent grabs his wrist mid-swing. The screen stays intact, and on it one message already sent: burn book, move drivers, clean Rivas. Clean Rivas. The name doesn't belong on a driver's phone. It belongs in a boardroom. 5:18 a.m., Nogales, Arizona. The air is cold enough to sting, the sky still black. A warehouse near the rail yard registered to a charity called Desert Hands Outreach gets reached by DEA and FBI. Supported by ICE. Inside there are no donated clothes. There are stainless steel tables, chemical drums, pill presses. This isn't a stash house. It's a drug super lab. The smell hits first, bitter chemical temps. Something like burnt plastic and antiseptic. Agents move through rows of equipment: mixers, dryers, scales, industrial vacuum sealers. A man in a respirator bolts toward a back door. Two agents tackle him before he reaches the latch. They recover 1.6 tons of methamphetamine in pressed soap bars, each wrapped in film and stamped with the same anonymous symbol. And behind a false wall, they find a narrow room with mattresses lined up shoulder to shoulder, a human trafficking, holding room, blankets on the floor, bottled water, a bucket in the corner, no windows, a place built for people to disappear. If you're still with me, understand this. In this fictional story, the cartel wasn't just moving drugs, it was moving bodies, and it was using the freight system as cover. Because trucks don't look suspicious. Trucks look like America working. 6:02 a.m. El Paso, Texas. A convoy of rigs gets boxed in by federal vehicles at a junction where the road opens wide. The drivers step out slowly, hands visible. Some look scared, some look numb, some look like they already knew this day would come. ICE agents read names off a list. DEA agents move toward trailers with canine units. The dogs don't bark, they lock on. One trailer marked frozen produce contains no produce, just insulated walls and hidden compartments. Fentanyl pills, packed in sealed bags, stacked inside the hollowed-out insulation, like organs inside a body. And then, in the cab of the lead truck, they find a second phone, not the driver's personal phone, a secure device. It opens with a thumbprint, and the contact list contains one name saved under a single letter, C. At 6:20 a.m., as the sun threatens the horizon, the first raid sequence ends with a kind of discovery that doesn't feel like victory. It feels like a door opening into something larger. Because the hard drives, the monitors, the executive override authorization, they all point to one thing. This trucking empire wasn't a front, it was a command center. 9:41 a.m., FBI Cyber, Forensics Lab, San Antonio, Texas. The room is cold, quiet, bright, in a way that makes people look guilty, even when they're not. Analysts sit behind glass, screens glow with data. A stack of seized devices sits on a stainless steel table like evidence from another world. Hard drives, encrypted phones, server blades pulled from hidden racks. An FBI technician plugs in the first drive. Another sets up an air-gapped workstation. A third begins a brute force attack on the encryption. Minutes pass like hours. Then it cracks not all at once, but like a dam starting to leak. Files spill out, spreadsheets, route logs, driver rosters, payment schedules, and then a folder. Nested deep, labeled Project Iron Veil, the analysts freeze. Project Iron Veil isn't written like a street operation. It's written like a corporate initiative. Inside, a network diagram blooms across the screen. Boxers connected to boxers. Arrows moving money from entity to entity. Shell companies. Copperline Logistics, Mesa Horizon Transport, Red Silt Fuel Cooperative. Ghost corporations with addresses that lead to empty lots or mailbox stores. A restaurant, chain used for Cache Washington locations across Texas and New Mexico. Each reporting the same suspicious record-breaking weekends. A sham charity with a clean website and staged photos, Desert Hands Outreach. A fake nonprofit foundation called the Frontier Renewal Trust, which paid consulting fees to a private security firm that didn't exist. Money flowed in disguised. Transfers, payroll reimbursements, fuel rebates, equipment leasing. Then it jumped offshore, crypto mixers, back into the United States as investment capital. And in the center of that web, highlighted in yellow, was a name that didn't belong in any of it. Calder Rivas, CEO of Rivas Interstate Galicia, respected trucking brand that hauled legitimate freight by day and moved cartel narcotics by night. But this is where it turns from crime into something else. Because the analysts don't just find his name, they find his key, an encrypted authorization token executive signature embedded into dispatch updates. Every time a high-risk load moved, a specific digital signature approved it. And that signature matched one administrator identity, Krivizek's. This wasn't corruption. This was command-level collusion. This wasn't negligence. It was engineered treason against neighborhoods, against families, against the basic idea that the roads belong to the public and not to an underworld supply chain. Then another file loads a polished proposal, written like a business plan, title, Southwest Corridor Stabilization, 36-month growth strategy. Growth strategy for narcotics, for human trafficking, for migrant smuggling routes disguised as labor transit, and the final page contains a line that makes even seasoned analysts swallow hard. Phase 3. Political shielding, permanent, administrative control. The operation hasn't ended, it's just been named. And now the federal machine shifts into the next phase. Because if a trucking CEO is building political shielding, then someone in government was supposed to hold that shield, and in this fictional story, they did. 3:12 a.m. Joint Command Center, El Paso Sector. A wall-sized digital map lights up the darkroom. Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. Dozens of red markers pulse across the Southwest like infected wounds warehouses. Dispatch centers, truck yards, fuel depots, border-adjacent property holdings, safe houses. The corridors are drawn like arteries. I-10, I-35, I-40. The command center hums with low voices and radio chatter. A unified mission gets spoken out loud, not as hype, but as math. Over 1,100 federal agents across FBI, DEA, and DHS components, 42 SWAT teams staged and timed, 8 Black Hawk helicopters for surveillance and rapid insertion, armored units for higher-risk sites where weapons caches are expected. They don't announce it publicly. They don't want him to run, because Calder Rivas doesn't run like a street criminal. He runs like a CEO. He'd disappear behind lawyers, behind donations, behind contracts. So they move before sunrise. 4:04 a.m., Las Cruces, New Mexico. A desert warehouse registered to Mesa Horizon Transport gets hit. Inside, a server farm rows of humming machines. Fans worry, cables like vines. Not for a normal company. For a criminal network that needs constant coordination. Agents seize the servers, yank drives, bag evidence. They find a radio repeater station built inside the warehouse communications infrastructure. This cartel didn't just use phones, it used systems. 4:21 a.m., Tucson, Arizona. A mansion on the outskirts drug fortress money disguised as logistics success. Gates are breached. SWAT moves in. The house is too quiet, too clean. Then, the panic hits two men bolt out a side door with duffel bags. One bag tears open as they run. Bundles of cash spill across the gravel like dead leaves. They're caught at the perimeter. Inside, they find a hidden room behind a bookshelf, real hinges, real locks. Inside, assault rifles and foam cutouts, stacks of ammunition, and ledgers with names. Driver names, border agent names, dispatch, coordinator names, and at the bottom of one page, payments judicial, 4:58 a.m., near the Texas border, a ranch property. ICE tactical teams move in with DHS support. They find trailers on the property and parked behind a line of mesquite trees. Inside, people, men and women, packed tight, dehydrated, terrified. A migrant smuggling transit house disguised as temporary housing for seasonal workers. The agents cut the locks. Fresh air hits faces that haven't seen open sky in days. One woman doesn't speak. She just grips a child's shoulder like she's afraid the world will take him back. 5:33 a.m. A border-adjacent drainage system outside a small Texas city. Agents in tactical gear drop into a concrete channel and move toward a metal hatch. They cut it open. Underneath, a tunnel mouth. Not finished, but reinforced. A tunnel meant to become permanent infrastructure. And if you understand what that means, you understand the ambition here. The underworld wasn't adapting to America. It was building America into itself. 6:10 a.m., the moment they go for Calder Rivas. His headquarters sits in a clean industrial park outside San Antonio. The sign out front is bright, polished Rivas Interstate Haulage. Safety, speed, service. The irony is a wait. Agents move in from multiple angles. Inside, employees arrive coffee cups in hand. Badges clipped to belts then freeze when they see vests. FBI, D. Calder, Rivas isn't in the lobby. Of course he isn't. He's in the executive suite, glass walls overlooking a yard full of trucks. When agents enter, he's calm. He stands, straightens his tie, smiles like he's greeting investors. "There must be a misunderstanding," he says softly. An agent reads the warrant. RICO, narcotics conspiracy, human trafficking facilitation, money laundering, obstruction. His smile tightens at the edges, but it doesn't break. Because men like this don't break in front of witnesses. They break later in private when the machine finally closes. As he's cuffed, a federal agent opens a drawer in his desk. Inside, a sealed folder marked Phase 3 Political Shield. Same phrase, different place. The raids keep unfolding. By 9 a.m., the seizures are stacked like a grim inventory. More meth, more fentanyl pills, cocaine hidden in produce pallets, heroin in fake engine parts, cash in walls, weapons in ceilings. And by 10:14 a.m., a senior official in the command center says the line that will haunt everyone who worked the case in 6 hours. The underworld took more damage than it's taken in the last 6 years, but the operation isn't done. Because the evidence doesn't stop at trucks and warehouses. It bleeds into the system. 11:38 a.m. Evidence review, federal task. Foresight. Seized servers are imaged, logs are pulled, emails are reconstructed. And a second map appears, one that doesn't show warehouses. It shows people. Law enforcement personnel flagged by payments. Patrol schedules altered, inspection station shutdowns timed like stage queues. An internal email thread from a county. Office mentions maintenance at a way station on nights when high-risk loads moved through. A border checkpoint supervisor's calendar shows training scheduled at the exact hour convoys crossed. A state-level transportation compliance official approved repeated expedited renewals for Riva's interstate vehicles, skipping normal audits. A deputy chief in a border city who fed raid rumors. To the network, a senior sergeant who falsified patrol grids, a courthouse clerk who fast-tracked paperwork, a powerful judge fictional, but real in impact, who buried warrants before they could breathe. They weren't just bribed, they were integrated, paid like employees, bonused like performers. In this fictional story, investigators realized the cartel didn't infiltrate law enforcement like a parasite. It built a parallel enforcement system, a shadow version of public safety one that protected narcotics corridors and punished anyone who got curious. And when honest officers see the names, the room changes. One veteran detective stares at the list and whispers, "That's my training." Partner. Another officer looks away, eyes wet, jaw locked, and says, "I've been standing next to him at roll call for 10 years. Betrayal doesn't always sound like screaming. Sometimes it sounds like silence when the truth finally arrives. Arrests. Big and quiet, surgical. Federal agents pick up a deputy chief at his home while his porch light is still on. A border agent is detained in a grocery store parking lot, handcuffed beside a cart full of food, like a normal day just turned into a public ending. A logistics inspector is arrested at his office, stunned, repeating, "You can't do this." But the truth is, in this story, the system has decided it can, because it has to, and investigators say it out loud. The badge will be rebuilt from the ground up. Now the picture has to zoom out, because the Southwest freight corridors weren't the whole plan, they were the prototype. 2:27 p.m. Continental Logistics. Analysis, DHS, Fusion Cell. A larger map is projected North America, with major routes highlighted. Trucking contractors in other states, shipping lanes, port cities. Fake green energy grants used to buy warehouse land near major interstates. Agricultural routes used as cover produce trucks that don't get inspected as hard because nobody wants to delay food. Shipping manifests altered with code words. Way stations mysteriously under maintenance when convoys passed. A pattern of small administrative choices that, when stacked, created a tunnel out of accountability. Analysts estimate the network could move multiple tons of narcotics per week without triggering alerts, because the alerts were being managed, not hacked, managed by humans with authority. And then they find it, a catastrophic file nested inside. Project Iron Veil, the Corridor Compact, long-term administrative control. It outlines a future where Rivas Interstate doesn't just haul freight, it becomes the freight standard. It buys competitors. It captures regulatory bodies through partnerships. It funds local campaigns through donations, then writes the policies that regulate itself. A shadow government, disguised as a company, shielded by the legitimacy it purchased. The chilling realization lands like a cold hand on the back of the neck. The system wasn't just infiltrated, it was redesigned for the cartel's future. And you, watching this, might be thinking, how does it get that far? It gets that far because most people don't look twice at a truck. They look away. They assume the roads are neutral. They assume paperwork means safety. They assume evil looks like a man with a gun, not a man with a spreadsheet. But fentanyl doesn't care what you assumed. Heroin doesn't care what you ignored. Meth doesn't care how respectable the logo is on the trailer. The cost comes anyway. It comes in overdoses. It comes in neighborhoods hollowed out. It comes in parents staring at a phone that will never ring again. It comes in kids growing up too fast because someone in a suit needed growth strategy. And here is the hardest part to swallow. Power does not always need open violence. Sometimes it only needs silence and ambition. In this fictional dramatization, the federal agencies, FBI, ICE, DHS, did what they always promise they can do when the evidence is real and the will is strong. They pulled the thread. They followed it through warehouses, through dispatch centers, through fake charities, through driver rosters, through encrypted keys, through executive offices. And they found a trucking empire that wasn't built to move freight. It was built to move a drug empire. If you're still watching, tap like so more people see this story. And comment expose if you want every shadow system dragged into the light, fictional or not, before it becomes someone's reality. Because this story is fictional, but the warning is real. And in the dark spaces between money and power, the road is always open until somebody closes it.